Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Dragon's Lair. Hello and welcome to the Dragon's Lair podcast, your home all things Dragons RFC and rugby in the region. I'm Jamie and joining me as always is Gavin Thomas. How are you doing, Gav?
I'm very well, Jamie, very well as always.
Good stuff. How's your week been?
It's been all right. Clearly in Wales, it's not any break in weather yet for you, but it's meant to be spring here in Sussex, and it snowed on Monday morning, and I am
really?
Outraged, absolutely outraged.
We've got a bit of sun here, and it's been quite nice because all we've had is rain, and we're actually getting a bit of sun now. We do feel like we're finally in spring, so I'm getting fed up with rain.
I was promised sun when I moved to the coast, and it's not delivering. I'm not very happy.
Oh dear. Okay, well, you can find us on platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and the Sports Social Network. And if you like what we do, please subscribe, share with your Dragons mates, and leave us a good review, as it all helps to grow the pod. Right then, so the URC is back, and this week's podcast has an Italian flavour. We are joined by Eddie and Ellie from the Spritz and Scrums podcast, the world's first English-speaking Italian rugby podcast. Buonasera and welcome to the pod. How are you guys?
Ciao.
Grazie mille. Molto, molto bene. Thank you for having us. It's a joy.
Yeah, really
no
good.
Problem. Did I butcher that, by the way?
No, it was perfect.
Was it? Oh, that's okay.
I wanted to reply in Welsh, and then I was like, oh, I'm probably going to get it wrong. Is it Croeso? Croeso?
Croeso, yeah. Croeso, yeah. Excellent, good stuff. Okay, then. So, thanks for joining us, guys. So, I thought we'd kick things off with just you guys just telling us a bit about yourselves and how the Spritz and Scrums podcast got started.
Well, the Spritz and Scrums podcast got started because we like talking about Italian rugby, and we'd talk about it a lot. And then we thought, you know what? We'll make this a podcast. Oh, and on top of that, that's the positive side, which is like, we just found ourselves talking about it all the time and thought we'd record it. And the negative side is we thought there was so much ignorance and sometimes maliciousness about Italian rugby in the press at the time that we thought we'd actually try and be a voice supporting it as opposed to, listening to.
Especially because there wasn't anybody talking about it in English, right? Like the fact that we were, I think now there's a couple of us, but originally this is about just only a year ago, actually, we've been going. But yeah, we realized that nobody was talking about it in English, and there must be other Italian rugby supporters who maybe don't speak fluent Italian and can't, listen to the Italian podcast. So why not start our own?
And we think we're funny. And that's important.
Yeah, the other third of us is probably the funniest, and he's not here with us.
But he doesn't know he's funny.
Yeah, he's funny. He's funny for us.
He's a bit like Ricky Gervais's Idiot Abroad.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, he's going to be so angry. He's a very great man.
Very great. We miss you, Coach. We'll try and make sure that we big you up on this podcast.
So the two of you are Benetton fans. So why Benetton then? What is it about Benetton?
It was actually quite lucky. So once, many years ago, Ellie and I were arguing about whether there are any good Italian rugby clubs or not. Obviously, during the Six Nations. This is almost a decade ago. I was, no, they've got some good ones. They've got some good ones. And then for her birthday, I thought I'd surprise her and take her to see a game. And it just so happened that that week, Benetton were playing at home and Zebre were playing away. So I was like, okay, well, it's got to be a Benetton game. So flew into Treviso. She thought we were going to Venice. And then next thing you know, bang! Benetton versus Edinburgh at home.
Doesn't get more romantic than that, does it?
It doesn't. It really doesn't. But actually, that's where our love story with Benetton started, and it could have been Zebre, but
we did go to Venice afterwards.
Yeah, we did. He did say, "Don't worry, we're going to Venice tomorrow."
Yeah, but we just fell in love with the place immediately. Like it's one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to. It's a city, but it's really the size of a town. And if anyone listening to this hasn't been, do go. It's absolutely stunning, and I'm sure some Dragons fans are probably making the trip this weekend.
Yeah.
Or two of them. Yeah, they'll be there, I expect.
Well, they'll have a beautiful time. €2 Prosecco's. You can't argue with that.
But we just fell in love.
Wish I go now.
Honestly, that was it for us. You know, we were like, gosh, this is dreamy. I haven't been to a stadium, especially, you know, we live in London. So getting to go to a stadium where you can pay kind of €2 for a glass of Prosecco and have a great time. And the atmosphere post game is amazing. They've got a little cassetta where the players come out afterwards and chat with everyone. It's very familial. And we sort of fell in love with it.
And it's got a little bit more professional in inverted commas in that sense. But when we first went to this one, you know, after the game, everyone was like, oh, this is the pub we're going to. Went to that pub. And then you had, you know, Eduardo Gori, you know, 50 caps for Italy. Yeah. He was offering to buy us pints.
Yeah.
And then Ellie went to the bathroom and was like, this is amazing. And I went to Bram Stain again, who was, you know, an Italian international flanker. I said, when Ellie comes back, could we possibly get a photo before we leave? And then when Ellie was away, he then whipped around the entire pub, got all the Benetton players together, so that when Ellie came out, we had like a massive group photo. And I was
amazing.
Like, that is just special. You don't get that in many places.
Yeah.
So then it was just love at first sight.
Yeah.
Through the ups and downs.
Mainly ups, though.
Well, there were some downs along the way, but ups mostly at the minute-ish.
Yes.
Has the club changed? So you're talking about 10 years ago. Now, clearly, in performance-wise, you know, the graph is upwards.
Yeah.
Has that come at the cost of some of the soul of the club? Or
I don't think so yet that we've tangibly noticed. They have stepped up their game in terms of just the professionalism behind the social media that goes out, the graphics, all of that has really stepped up in the last, I'm going to say, 1.5 2 years. The work that Federico, the social media manager, is doing at the minute is, I think, top level. Like, it's on par with any top club. But I don't think it's lost its soul. They are going to expand the stadium this summer.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether...
I don't think it's lost its soul. It has changed. It's got slightly more, again, in inverted commas, professional. You know, when we first went, we then went again for my birthday, and they gave me a bottle of champagne for my birthday. I don't think you'd get that anymore, but that's just because the club's growing.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere and the soul of it is still very much the same. And after the game, it's not like when you go to some of the Premiership teams and like the players are cordoned off and at their end and no one can get anywhere near them. No, they very much mingle and they're all part of it. It's very much, it still feels like a community club, even though they play some like top tier rugby, and that's lovely.
But financially, they've definitely invested a lot in the last few years. They've just built a whole new hospitality area.
Yeah, and they're building a new stand this summer.
So that should up capacity to about 7,500, 8,000 people, because it's currently 5,000. And they're selling that out week in, week out, which again, 18 months ago was not the case. So clearly they've tapped into the potential. So it's exciting.
But there is always a fear when things get too famous or too good. It's a bit like, you know, when you like a rock band or something and then I like them before they were famous.
Yeah.
There's an element of that,
Yeah.
a concern of that, but I don't think so. I think, it's still to this day, and hopefully it continues, an incredibly friendly and community-based club.
I'm thinking to myself now, maybe I should be a Benetton fan because players buying pints, champagne for birthday.
I'm telling you.
I'm missing out here. We won't get this at the Dragons. We will not get this down at Rodney Parade.
Well, you say that, you say that, but I've had it on good authority that Rodney Parade is the best fan experience in the URC.
So I don't know what they're measuring that on. Probably not bottles of champagne, but maybe on, somebody said that it encapsulates everything. So that's kind of your access to the stadium, the car park.
Yeah.
Apparently you have a very good
all
car
sorts.
park.
There was a consultancy company. They did all sorts on what's the best fan experience. And apparently Rodney Parade came out on top.
Yeah, we completely agree, don't we, Gav? We're not biased on this pod,
No,
but
absolutely
Rodney Parade is
not.
definitely the best, isn't it?
It always looks cold on TV, I've got to say.
That's probably the only thing turning me off. But we will visit eventually. The next Benetton game in Newport will be there.
There won't be champagne there, mind. I can tell you that right now. There won't be players buying pints. I'm sorry.
But an excellent curry chip. So
great.
Yes.
Well,
absolutely.
I've never been to Wales, let alone Newport.
What?
And,
I know.
And my surname is Evans.
That's a bloody disgrace, that is.
And my cousin thinks he's Welsh.
And your other cousin has played.
They both played sport for Wales.
Yeah.
And they're just as Welsh as I am. And my grandpa identified as a Welshman.
And Eddie's never set foot
And
in
I've
Wales.
never crossed the river.
You need to remedy that quickly as
Yeah.
possible. Ignore the suggestions of going to Snowdonia or Cardiff. When we go straight to Newport.
Great.
Yeah,
and stop at nothing else. All we need to
no,
see is Newport.
Newport is the heart of Wales. Kind of once you visited Hyper Value, you never need to go back.
Newport
it's not
or
Hyper
bust.
Value anymore, Gav. It's pound stretchers. Hyper Value went years ago. And we've got Weatherspoons as well.
You
we got it all in Newport. What more could you want?
We might get €2 Prosecco's in a Weatherspoons.
Oh, you definitely will, probably. Yeah. You need to sort that out, though, Ed. You need to come to Newport. I think when the fixture list comes out for next season, you guys need to come to Newport.
That's it. We'll commit to that. Let's commit to that on this podcast. Coach, you're coming too.
Fine. We'll definitely go next season.
Coming along.
Benetton away, or maybe I don't want to get you guys started. I was about to say Zebra away. I don't really want to talk about it, to be perfectly honest. You guys probably want to talk about it quite a lot.
Oh no, we talked about.
But either Benetton or Zebra away in Newport. Yeah.
We'll be there.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd be more comfortable with Zebra if it
Although Benetton's away win record is, it's a bit better this season, but last season it was abysmal. So
I'll come on to that later. Will you wait till you hear the Dragons away record? It's even worse. Sorry, Gav, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to ask a question about Benetton, really. So clearly, it's improved. The results have improved, probably since COVID with the Rainbow Cup and that period.
Yeah.
Well, the obvious answer is clearly players have improved. But why do you think that it's changed? Because they've gone from being a club that you wouldn't imagine getting out into the playoffs to now one of the serious contenders. So how's that happened?
Well, the answer for me is that actually I think, they had a winless season and then they immediately won the Rainbow Cup at the end of it. Yeah. That winless season was actually a very odd one because actually they played some good rugby in it. And as a fan, you weren't watching it going, oh, these guys are hopeless. You were watching it going, how are we losing all these games? And actually, they got to the Pro 14 playoffs the year before that and almost beat Munster away in the playoffs. So they weren't a terrible side. They were a very inconsistent side, as they can still be. But now they're... But you know what? Even now, they just lost to Scarlets away.
That's
which
unacceptable,
also... It's unacceptable. It's like, what a terrible weekend for Italian rugby that was. I'm meant to be banging the drum for Italian rugby, but they lost. Zebra lost to you guys. Well done. Yep. But then your great weekend was also slightly ruined, I'm sure, by watching Scarlets win as well, because you would be sitting on top of Scarlets if it wasn't for that. So Benetton really shot Zebre in the foot there as well.
And Dragons.
Bloody Benetton.
Yeah.
Hopeless.
We were so angry. Yeah. But in answer to why have they got better or how have they got better? I mean, it's obviously been a journey. They've made some really good investments. Obviously, they've bought very well.
Yes.
They now are in a position, even though on our most recent podcast, we've been talking about the fact that essentially Benetton have insane depth now. And when the internationals were away for the Six Nations, we were like, well, you know what? We're okay. I mean, actually, if you look at who's left behind, there's a bunch of non-Italian internationals playing in Benetton now. They didn't perform as well as they should have. So yeah, losing 2 Scarlets was not in the plan. But you can't ignore the fact that, you know, you've got Fekitoa, you've got Jacob Umaga, you've got some brilliant Argentinians, Thomas Albanos, Gajo. So they have real depth.
But on top of that, they've got this depth, but also the young players, young Italian players that people were talking about for ages and ages and ages, finally came of age. So all these young guys, you know, they got the experience. And Menoncello now 21, just got player of the tournament in the Six Nations, but he's one of many decent young Italians. So if you combine that, you also add the fact that they put their hands in their pockets quite big to buy the likes of Fekitoa, that they were very, very quick off the mark, capitalizing in the disaster that was English rugby. You know, so they got a whole bunch of Wasps players in. You know, they've done some very good business and developed young talent. And then the rest of them as well, they're experienced Italian internationals, again, are coming of age. They're just still coming into their peak. So it's a combination of things. On top of that, Bortolami's a pretty decent coach. A new fitness coach came in from Jersey, and he did a fantastic job with them.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a perfect storm of stuff.
And I think wins feed wins, in the sense that I also think watching a team do well feeds into the players wanting to play and stay on. So actually in the last 6 months, the amount of kind of contract extensions that have been signed and players who are committed to staying has been something that realistically we thought Jacob Umaga would stay a year. We thought Paolo Odogwu would stay a year, and they've all extended. They're all staying. And that's, I think, because there is a collective feeling of let's build this into something great. And they're sensing that there is momentum. And that kind of feeds into it as well.
And it's still going now, like Lewis Liner. Leaving Harlequins is
great signing. What a signing. The recruitment has been so smart, isn't it, from Benetton?
Yeah, really smart.
You know, so yes, that's why. However, there's still, you know, massive room for improvement. I mean, I think they're excellent and I'll support them. But there's still, if you compare the Benetton squad to, you know, Toulouse, Leinster, La Rochelle, you know, they're still...
it's not a level playing field, though, is it? And kind of, you're operating within the salary cap. We're operating within, you know, we're literally scraping down the back of the sofa to pay for stuff. And then Leinster this week have moved one of their players into a central contract, which has opened a huge chunk of finance, which allows them to sign Jody Barrett. It is not a level playing field, even vaguely.
And then exactly. And Benetton, yes, they've got this money and all this, but then also they've got a squad of about 45 to 50 players because they have to, because when the Six Nations or an international window opens up, they
lose 20 to 25 players.
Gutted of players. So it's not like a gross excess that they're buying these players. It's like you either have a massive squad or you'll be playing your under-19s during the Six Nations.
And that's the nature of professional rugby now, I think, as well. Yeah, it's Dragons has a sizable squad. We've had 21 injuries at times this season. And like you say, it's our under-19s. We're having to draw from the semi-professional feeder clubs. It's you need those size squads, otherwise you don't you don't cope really with the absence in international periods. And we don't lose as many international players as you do, but then we don't have a host of other top class players.
We don't have
I
the
think
depth. That's the problem.
No,
We just don't have the
there's no
depth. When
depth
we
at
lose
all.
injuries, we have guys who
Yeah.
come in who probably aren't at URC level, or we chuck in kids. But that's just where we are. What I was going to ask you two is, I don't know if you know this, but do you have any idea roughly what the budget is for Benetton? What's their playing budget? Roughly?
So I think, and this could be wrong, but I'm not pretty sure. It's roughly all these words I'm putting in to sort of like edge my bet.
Roughly.
So no one's
Yeah.
putting it. Okay, so this could be complete. Don't want to swear on the podcast. It could be.
No, can if you want them. That's
Could be
fine.
complete bollocks. But
Yeah.
my understanding is it's each of the two franchises. So Italy has a similar model to Wales in a sense that these are franchises. But Benetton also has a huge amount of money from the Benetton family as well.
Yeah.
So, and other sponsorships. So they operate on about 6 million euros each. And then Benetton will double that. And possibly now
okay.
more than double it through private funding and sponsorships. Sebre Parma are not in the same position financially that Benetton are. It's sort of pretty chalk and cheese there. They basically just rely entirely on the money they get from the Italian Rugby Football Union.
So Zebra's similar kind of funding to us, and
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so, because you guys, because in Welsh rugby, isn't it that so there's you're all franchises, but some of you are part ownership, but Dragons is an entire franchise in it.
it's privately owned.
We got four privately owned teams now, so we were owned by the WRU. Yeah.
Yeah, we were on. They aren't franchise. There's certain Cardiff fans who would be curling up with fury at you, and they're described as a franchise.
I don't mind particularly making.
Right, we're not going to Cardiff. We've been told to.
No, we're going to Newport. Newport is the cultural hub of Wales, and that's where we're going.
But yeah, kind of our funding is limited, but yeah, that's how professional sports works. Some teams are wealthier than others. Those teams tend to do better. That's not a rugby thing. That's all.
We're on a salary cap, so at the moment it's 5.2, and next season all the Welsh teams are going down to 4.5.
Yeah,
very low, as you can imagine. That's going to make recruitment and retaining our players very, very difficult. That's why in Welsh rugby now we've seen a lot of young kids come through, and you've seen it for Wales. I'm sure the Six Nations, like the Cam win it, Alex Mann, and all these kids coming through. So it's tough times. We're having to cut our cloth in Welsh rugby, but
is it true that the Scarlets don't have a full-time defence coach?
We don't.
It's us.
I don't know about Scarlets either, but
I'll do it for cheap.
Yeah, I've offered on this pod as well. I've not been taken up.
Never made a tackle in my life, but I think I could talk a good game.
Yeah, my success with Hastings under 10s is not being picked up effectively by Dragons, and they're not offering me the defence coach role.
Wow, that's crazy, isn't it? I mean,
well, we have 3 full-time coaches, 2 of which are leaving at the end of the season because of contract, and then the rest of the coaching roles are taken up by guys who are part-time and also have roles coaching Newport semi-professional club, Newport RFC.
Wow.
It's we are literally a bit of a shoestring operation at the moment. It's not always been like that, but there was a time.
To be fair, though, as I say, if you'd watched any Dragons games, you would know that we don't have a defence coach.
Yeah.
You would know just by watching any of our games. But no, we will get a defence coach next season. We're having an overhaul of the coaching team. But yeah, we don't have a full-time defence coach.
Wow.
So yeah, that's
I've
why
been
we're
considering all that. Actually, you know what? It could be a lot worse.
What do you mean a lot worse? So apart Zebre.
No, yeah, but that's what right? Imagine like trying to push that onto Benetton. Like, yeah, no, you don't have a full-time defence coach. Like, put that on anyone. Put that on Leinster. Put that on anyone.
Yeah. But it's finance, isn't it? Can Leinster have this bottomless pot of money?
Yeah.
They can do
but at the expense of the other Irish regions, though. I think they basically
absolutely, yes. They do soak it up, particularly from Ulster and Connacht to get a worse deal, and Munster fans are not keen on the whole setup, but it works. It works for Leinster. It works for Irish. Well, it works for Ireland as a national team, not for Irish rugby as a whole.
No, certainly works for Leinster though, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't dislike Leinster. I know a lot of people hate Leinster. They're the bad guys, but I'm insanely jealous of them. You know, the budget, the players they got, they keep winning all the time.
Yeah.
I hate
Also,
that.
it's quite sweet. It's like, oh yeah, of course they need some help from Geordie Barrett, right? Like, yeah, that's what Leinster need. They need a bit of help. Like,
to be fair to Leinster, clearly they have piles of cash. They can buy whatever they want, but the system is right.
Yeah.
In the region, Leinster coaching principles are being done in all the clubs. The kids are getting ready. So you've got 17, 18-year-olds who are rolling into the Leinster Academy, already know the Leinster way, and which is why they have this conveyor belt of back row forwards and centres who just seem to appear out of nowhere. and they're coming out to 7 or 8 schools in the South Dublin area. So these are kids who've grown up playing alongside each other, and then they're going into the professional game alongside.
Well, I think that's Leinster, for all their, what people say about them, but it's not just they have got a huge ton of money, but also most of those players are homegrown, and their dream has always been from the age of 12 to wear the blue of Leinster. And that's a real pull.
They are the Death Star. There's no doubt in that. But there's also
come on. Who's more unlikable, Leinster now or Saracens at their peak?
Oh, they're always Saracens.
I don't think there's a comparison. Saracens are the Death Star. They were the Red Bull Formula One team of the rugby world.
The thing is, I just think it's because they had unlikable players at Saracens. I don't think Leinster players are as unlikable.
I agree. But
Leinster
true.
as an organisation, I think, are. It's because it literally is faceless. There are guys playing for Leinster, I couldn't tell who they are, and I'm sure the coaches couldn't. They just turn up and they're these identical players. But
it's true.
And that's the URC's challenge. You were a club probably, Benetton a club with an ambition.
Yeah.
But there's not many clubs who can be ambitious because it really is about those budgets, isn't it? And if you compare the playing resources of some of the lesser teams.
We were talking about this on our podcast recently, which is basically, that's the joy of the Challenge Cup, because the Challenge Cup, in theory, is a winnable tournament for Benetton because Leinster aren't in it.
That's literally what we said.
Of course, that's it. Yeah.
Otherwise, it ends in tears for everyone.
Leinster.
Yeah,
but that's sport, isn't it? There's always a team slightly better than everyone else.
Yeah. But in European rugby, there are other teams that can sort of hold Leinster to account, but they're the ones we all know: Toulouse, La Rochelle. Well, clearly not the other day though.
That was
not the other week. No,
that was an unbelievable performance.
Oh, they're so good. Like I say, I don't hate Leinster, but I am insanely sick with jealousy because they keep winning everything. They can sign all these players, by the school system, these kids, and it's a different world, and it will never be as good as Leinster. But hey ho, right. I want to get your guys' thoughts on Italy. I think we should talk about Italy because it's going well, isn't it? Italian rugby. They had a very good Six Nations, so 2 wins over Scotland and Wales. A draw against France, which really should have been a win. I mean, I still don't understand how that ball came off the tee. I've watched it several times. I just don't.
The roof was closed. There was no wind.
I don't get it. How did that happen? So it should have been 3 wins. It was the first time since 2013 Italy had achieved at least 2 wins in a Six Nations tournament, and the first time since 2015 they had not finished bottom of the table. So they were making strides under Kieran Crowley, as we know, but Gonzalo Casado looks to be a very good appointment, isn't he? So what are your thoughts on Italy and their progression?
Well, I think it's been a long time coming.
Yeah. I was a little bit. I was very annoyed when they sacked Kieran Crowley before the World Cup had even started. They basically said, like, he's going to finish with the World Cup. That's it. He's out. Because I thought that what he's been doing has been phenomenal, and the attack that he's built has been incredible and exciting, and just something that we'd never really seen in Italian rugby. However, I have, on our own podcast, eaten my words, taken them back, Because I think what Gonzalo has done has brought, well, he's sharpened up the defense in a way that
Yes,
we
that's
knew we
true.
needed, but didn't realize how urgently it could be done and how well it could be done. And I don't know, it's easy to say, but I don't know whether we would have got those 2 wins and a draw without him, which, you know, considering he only joined Italy at the beginning of January. So he'd only had about, with some of the players, he'd had about 2 weeks before their first game. I think it's phenomenal. But that's obviously Kieran built a lot of the foundations. Gonzalo's just very, very, very detailed. And I think we needed detail. And that's what
I think that was a difference for me, because I could see it was very exciting, the Italian play, but it looked hugely unstructured to me. And I am a fan of really boring rugby. And if you're going to kick a ball with purpose. And the Italian team felt like kicking particularly just seemed directionless. And then this season, and before the season, I was talking to some friends of mine, and I was saying, I don't see him doing it. They don't kick the ball with any real sense of directional purpose. And it was very different, Italy. I was very wrong. And it was interesting to see the impact of it, because they had the attacking flair of Galbizi and those guys, but then they also had structure and organisation, and that made a difference.
The defence that they put in against France, I think, blew all of our minds, because that could have been the way that France game started. I was like, oh God, we're in for a really long afternoon. And they managed to hold them out in a way that I've never seen Italy do.
But, you know, Gonzalo Quesada's done a lot of that, but Marius Goosen was still the defence coach, and he'd been the defence coach for ages. So it's about letting these things click, and the players getting to a right age. And also, you know, obviously they famously beat Wales 2 years ago.
I don't remember that, sorry. I got no recollection of that whatsoever.
We'll send you the highlights.
I'll send you some highlights. You might enjoy.
Don't bother. I'm okay. I'm good.
And then last year, because of that, you know, people were expecting a lot from Italy, but it was, you know, coming up to a World Cup, and, you know, that's when the teams are at their absolute peak. And I remember, because we were in Rome last year to watch them play Wales, and there was an atmosphere before the game that Italy were gonna beat Wales. The Welsh fans looked a little bit nervous, and then Gatland just did what Gatland does. He pulled an absolute masterclass, and they undid Italy, and Italy choked. And it was like, oh no, but okay, learn from that. But then winning breeds winning.
Yeah.
And so I think they built a lot of confidence as the Six Nations went on. They lost to England by 3 points as well. You know, that's not a lot for it in an Italy-England game. 3 points. And the France game, I think, was the absolute moment where if you can play in France with that hostile crowd and be in the running like that, and then was the first time they'd won at home against... Well, they beat Scotland, but first time they won at home for how many years? 11 years. That changes absolutely everything. And what I would say is exciting is that it's the players that aren't picked. If you talk about depth, you know, Simona Jessie has been scoring tries for fun for Zebre Palmer. He didn't see a game in the Six Nations.
And that's something that Italy have never really had, right? We've had decent sides over the years, but the depth hasn't been there. And I think now, actually, if you look across the board, like in the forwards, in the backs, there's depth in a way that we've never seen before.
And they're able to pick on form in a way that they've never been able to do in recent times. So in the past, you have a player, I'm not going to mention any names, I don't want to be mean, but say you've got a player, particularly potentially on the wing, let's say, who hasn't been playing very well, but he's scored a couple of good tries in the past. And you'd find themselves, those kind of players, being picked in the hope rather than expectation that they could do something good. Whereas now, for the first time that I've ever seen with Italy, there's proper competition for places. When a team comes out, there are some very, very decent players who are disappointed.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes a bit of a snowball effect in how they push each other and what they're able to do.
What you're describing essentially is where Wales is right now, that we're picking players because that's what we've got, rather than because they're probably ready for international rugby.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean the opposite, exactly right, but also the opposite in that I think Wales now, unless I'm wrong, they're picking very young players who may not be ready, whereas Italy would be picking players who have been
kind of past it
in all nicest way, tried and tested and found wanting, but still being picked
because there was no one else. Because we didn't have,
And then also you put into account the under-20s and the age group levels, which have been doing pretty well, and the mentality shift in that those guys are not afraid of lining up against England because they beat England at under 20.
Yeah.
And it's a different mindset.
I have a question about Italian rugby because I must admit I don't really know a lot about it. Who plays rugby in Italy? Is it a specific region? Is it a specific class of people? Because it's.
So it's not a class thing, but it's definitely a regional thing. So if you look at where Zebre and Benetton both are, I mean, Zebre were put in Parma, but actually almost all of the rugby that is played in Italy, or the vast majority, is in Veneto, which is the sort of region.
Northeast around
Northeast, the northeastern region. They're trying to spread the game. And obviously there are rugby clubs in Milan and there are rugby clubs in Rome and there are a couple down in Sicily, but really from Rome down, there's not very much rugby at all. But yeah, exactly. Not a lot of people play rugby.
But then because, Italians are very proud, and if your team's losing, then it's hard to get a nation behind it. But I think Italy is a sleeping giant because there's 60 million of them, and they've shown if they start winning at a sport, they get behind it. And if 60 million people get behind Italian rugby, well, that's a bit of a sleeping giant.
And the FIR are trying to collaborate now with the FIGC, which is the football union, to try and promote the game more to young kids because in Italy, everyone only ever cares about football. In fact, if you speak to the vast majority of Italy rugby players, they will all have started as footballers or wanting to be footballers. And then, I don't know, their uncle said, come and try this game out. And they knew nothing about it and kind of fell in love with it that way. So it's just about exposing more young children to it.
But in answer to your question, so it's mainly in the Northeast rugby. Milan's used to have a very good rugby playing population and still does. But the issue is it's got no representation at the elite level, and neither does Rome, because obviously there's the two URC franchises, which are Benetton in the Northeast and Parma, which is north-ish. And then they've got a league below it, similar to the Welsh Premiership, which is the Italian semi-professional Serie A elite. But to spread, if you wanted the strongest teams, potentially, there's two other sides which are about half an hour drive each from Treviso, which are called Rovigo and Petrarca, who are in Padua. Those two sides could be like Benetton because they've got very wealthy owners. They could get huge financial backing. So if they were put in the URC immediately, you could expect them to do really, really well. The issue is, well, then you're not spreading the game at all.
Yeah.
You're literally putting these clubs which are 20 minutes apart because that's the rugby heartlands.
This sounds familiar, Gav, doesn't it? But it's been too close together in Wales.
Yeah, it really does. It kind of all the two Welsh or four Welsh franchises, the kind of central and eastern ones are 20 miles from each other, and the two western ones are 20 miles from each other. And there's just the valleys that circulate off here. So Rovigo, the brother of a guy I've played sevens with, Perry Parker, he went to Rovigo about 5-6 years ago, and they were throwing money around.
And they spend quite big for a semi-professional outfit that only plays Italian domestic rugby. So one can only imagine what they could do if they were given a seat at the top table. The issue is that Zebre listeners, well, this isn't our podcast. We can say what we want.
I don't think we get many Zebre fans listening.
The Zebre Parma, for the URC to want to have another Italian side, it will mean that Zebre Parma need to win a bit more than they're currently doing. Otherwise, you go, well, hang on, why we give you another one?
Yeah.
Or, they pay the money for it, but hang on, is that good for the product? Having another one when one of your teams finishes bottom basically all the time?
But having another Italian side makes more sense to me than some of the things you see about, let's have a German club or a Georgian club. Or,
I think what they should do really is, if they put one in Rome, it would work, because also Parma isn't particularly easy to get to. I'm not saying get rid of Zebre, absolutely keep Zebre Parma, and as you've seen, they play some really exciting rugby, and they've won some games this season, and they got to the playoffs of the Challenge Cup, so they're not mugs either. But put one in Rome or put one in Milan, someone that's easy to get to and that's got a big population. To get people behind it.
And also just to get more young kids playing rugby and knowing about rugby, because at the minute, and it is getting a little bit more popular, and hopefully, it will snowball. But right now, basically, if you play rugby, you're playing it because your dad played it or your uncle played it. Like nobody comes to rugby in Italy without some sort of familial connection. Because
I think that's the same everywhere. I coach under 10s, and I find the vast majority of the kids there, parents have played rugby. My son, the other coach's son. Rugby is a minority sport everywhere, really. Apart
even
from
in Wales, I thought in Wales it was like the sport.
It isn't.
Football,
it isn't.
It is.
Yeah, it isn't. Football's always been really bigger, but the participation of rugby is quite sizable in Wales. But that is severely dropping off. There are big clubs, Treviso, which was first-class team in the 70s when my dad played for. They've not been in the league for 2 years. They can't get sides out. It's shrinking as a thing.
Wow.
But soccer, because we've had some success in football.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I don't want to be mean to the Welsh, but when your football team isn't good and your rugby team is doing really well, well, as if you're a teenager, it's a no-brainer which way you go. But with Gareth Bale and you've had some pretty decent Welsh football going on, and that would suck fans in, I guess.
And it does, absolutely.
Rugby can never compete with football, just as a rule. It's just impossible, and so it shouldn't try to. It just shouldn't try to.
Football's easy to play. That's not denigration of football. Say anybody can organise a game of football, because you just need
a ball,
a round ball, and a patch of land. Whereas rugby requires quite a few things. You need a certain kind of playing area, an understanding of the unnecessarily convoluted laws.
Yeah. So true.
It is a complicated game, though, rugby, because Jonathan Davis Jiffy on the BBC always says it's an easy game, it's a simple game. But I think, no, it's not, because they're tweaking the laws all the bloody time, and I can't keep up with them now.
But it was deliberately designed to be complicated to keep the working class out. That's why it was designed with the complicated laws.
Really?
In the public, because football had grown up in the public schools, and association football became more and more popular. And therefore, well, we'll make something that's slightly more complicated, and we'll keep the riffraff out.
That's, I mean.
And what? No, I can't. What brought the Welsh to play it?
Well, it was.
It's changed on our podcast.
It's been a real pleasure, guys.
It was brought in the school system, but there was a point where rugby league looked like it would be the sport in South Wales. Some of the rugby union clubs, Vale, Aberavon, they were rugby league teams for a period of time. And Newport and Cardiff were invited to go to the meeting up in Huddersfield to join the rugby league.
Wow!
And if that had happened, then it could have been entirely different. Yes, sliding door moment.
Yeah. Wow.
I wasn't expecting to be talking about this on the pod. I got to be honest. We've delved really deep, haven't we? I want to get back to Italy, though, right? Because it's okay. It's fine. It's good. It's quite interesting, actually. I want to get back to Italy, though, because isn't it nice to see Italy doing well? Purely because now we don't have to hear the tedious bloody bollocks of kick Italy out and replace it with Georgia, because I was getting so tired of hearing that. But what we're hearing now is kick Wales out and replace it with Georgia. So it's a different conversation now altogether. But it's good, though, isn't it? The Six Nations needs a strong Italy, and I personally love seeing Italy doing so well. It's good to see, isn't it?
I think what's finally really satisfying for us, who have been kind of banging the drum of like it's coming, is that I think it has arrived. I think Italy, like this Six Nations, obviously they've kind of cemented themselves, and it's very easy to go like, oh well, is this a one-off? I don't think it is. I hope I don't have to eat my words, but I really don't think I will. I think this is now, especially with this crop of players, and this crop of players are very young across the board. I think this is Italy probably for the next, 5, 6, 7 years. They should be winning at least 2 games every Six Nations.
And in regards to Georgia, it was so frustrating, these conversations, but and our social media was absolutely appalling. It was depressing. It was so depressing. And then you hear some intelligent people saying, I don't want to be mean, but I'm not going to say any names, but Sam Warburton.
We know.
He was the worst.
Tom Shanklin at times could be unbearable about these things. I'm not just harassing Welsh celebrities, but anyway.
No, you're right.
But it was never anti-Georgia, and that's the important thing. And actually, people say kick Wales out. Obviously, that's in jest because Wales is a rugby powerhouse, and it will find its feet very soon, and it'll be back again. So this is a temporary moment for Welsh rugby. But Italy and Wales are the only 2 teams that give Georgia a crack. And they've both been at the losing end of a Georgian side over the last couple of years. But people, let's bring Georgia in, let's bring Georgia. Well, hang on a minute. When was the last time England went to Tbilisi? They're not going. No one's going. It's all words, and it's a bit frustrating. The only teams that play them
are Italy and Wales.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't play them in Tbilisi. They come to Cardiff. There's no way we're going to. There's all this talk. No, we may do, but I don't think that is.
Italy when it wasn't in Tbilisi. Where was it? It was somewhere else in
Georgia.
In Georgia.
I just find it incredibly frustrating. Firstly, none of the unions are going to agree to it, so stop having the conversation. Secondly, none of the TV companies are going to agree to it. And the most important thing as well, and everyone can disagree with me, Georgia aren't very good.
Well, that's it. That's the other thing.
Are they good enough to? Would they be any better than Italy have been over recent years?
No, they were not. No,
they'd be considerably worse.
So actually, it's so
winning
silly.
whatever it's called, the second division thing. I've seen Belgium play. Yeah, of course they've beaten them. They aren't very good.
Yeah. I mean, there is a real drop off, and Georgia are kind of probably always going to win that, but
of course,
then Portugal, And what's interesting is that the Rugby World Cup did a great job for getting people to watch Portuguese rugby and stuff, but it didn't actually transpire into people watching European rugby during the Six Nations. People weren't watching it. I think the Six Nations could grow, but I don't see how it would happen particularly with 23-person squads. I've got all these sort of avant-garde out there ideas of how you could do it. You make less subs. So then you put less people in a contact situation every week, and then you could put more games in. But no one's asking me for my opinions. That was right.
That's fair enough. I'm not a fan of this promotion relegation chat. I'm sorry. I want to grow the game. And yes, I do think teams like, Georgia should get more games against Tier 1 in Portugal and that. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the Six Nations is a great tournament.
Yeah,
Leave it
this
alone.
season,
that's just my opinion. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
No, well, that's the thing. So if you want, first things first, just get them more fixtures. Before you mess with the Six Nations, just get them more fixtures in the autumn, get them more fixtures in the summer.
Yeah.
And then and then go on from there. But don't, and as you said, the unions would never agree to it because as we've seen, famously, you know far more than I will, but Wales have had some financial difficulties. The RFU, they've lost how many clubs in the Premiership in the last couple of years? No one. It's so bare to see. No one can afford to drop out of the Six Nations, because if you drop out, you're gone. That's it. The sport of that country dies on the spot. So why would any of the shareholding nations ever buy into it?
Absolutely. The professional rugby nations are kind of funded by the major competitions they play in. The Sands are sides, the Six Nations sides. Georgia is the only really professional rugby nation that isn't part of a major competition.
Yeah, and before you do that, let's put the Black Lions into the URC or something like that. That's a stepping stone, and I think that'd be fun. Not instead of anyone. Not instead of anyone. I don't know how the fixture would work.
But yes, all in all, I'm very glad that we have shut up the kick Italy out haters.
So am I, because it's so bloody boring. Right, I'm conscious of time. I feel like I've kept you for ages. Let's look ahead to this weekend. So, Benetton versus Dragons on Saturday. Kickoff is at 2:00. The game is live on S4C in the UK. What did they show it in Italy? Is this Sky Italia?
So actually it is on, I think it's Sky Arena. They show a lot of the games on, but they also occasionally put it on normal TV. Occasionally.
Oh, okay.
Not all of them, but normally it's on Sky.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. So, head to head, these two teams have played each other 22 times. Benetton have won 13, Dragons have won 8, and it's been 1 draw. Benetton have only lost once at home in any competition since March 2023. Now, Ellie, you talked about away form for Benetton. Dragons have not won away in the URC since beating Scarlets back in April 2022. So if you think your away form is gash, it doesn't compare to ours. Okay. The last 3 games between these two sides in the championship have resulted in a win apiece plus a draw. Dragons have won just twice in Treviso. The first time was in March 2015. Gav, when was the last time we beat Benetton in Treviso?
It was pre-COVID. I'm going to say 2018.
Nope, it was November 2020.
Oh. I was going to say 2020. Yeah.
It was a behind closed doors game.
Yes, in our terrible season where we basically didn't win a game. That would have been it. That's
why Dragons won.
Yeah.
It all adds up. Yeah.
Makes total sense. So, So I was listening to your pod this morning, Spritz and Scrums, on the way to work, and you were having a debate about selection for this game because you have got a massive game coming up, haven't you, against Gloucester in the Challenge Cup. I mean, that is going to be a fantastic game. I mean, there's a neutral. I can't wait for that. Well, let's say it's a neutral. I'd like to see Benetton win, actually.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want to see your team stick together.
Yeah.
You were having a debate about selection. Some of you were saying that you should go full strength for this. I think it was you, Ellie, was kind of like, oh, no, you should. How do you guys think Benetton, because we're recording this on Thursday night, we don't know the teams yet. How do you think Benetton will approach this game? Because they are still in contention for the URC playoffs. And if they lose this, then it really makes it difficult for them, doesn't it, to get into that playoff bit. So how do you think they're going to approach it?
If they lose this game, I think their chance of getting a playoff are over. That's it. It's finished. Their BKT URC season is done.
Because they have a horrid sort of end of the season. They go down to South Africa.
Ulster away, and they've got South Africa, the Sharks and the Bulls down there. So they really need these points.
Yeah.
I think they've got enough depth that they can put out a sort of 1.5, a first 15.5.
Yeah.
Is where I think they will be. And I think that will depend on who's got a little niggle or who's got a bit of an injury of who they'll pick.
Yeah. I think Bortolami, I read an interview with him today, and he was saying that, expect some of the players who haven't had as much game time, but are definitely on form in training to be picked.
If I was being really ruthless, what I think I would do, and again, no one's going to pay me for these opinions because they're garbage, I might pick basically a full-strength side to play the Dragons and try and get a bonus point, which Benetton have really struggled. No offense, but pick a foot, go full for it, try and get a bonus point, and then if you have to pick a weaker side, send your weaker side to Ulster. Get them travelling on the plane, all that discomfort for a game that you're probably going to lose anyway.
I see the logic in that. I see what you're saying, because it's highly unlikely you're going to win in Ulster away. So put everything into this game, get the 5 points, and then that does make sense. Yeah, I think it's I wonder if Wrexham Menoncello will play though, because I hope they don't, personally. Because how good were they, by the way, the Six Nations? Oh,
they are. Good. I mean, brilliant, I think my thing that I keep saying is like, if you're keeping Malachi Fekitoa off of starting, you must be insane, and the two of them are insane. They are just, they work in this beautiful symbiotic pairing.
And so they basically they play like, conjoined twins. They know exactly what the other one's going to do. But the stats about these guys, so Menoncello, youngest ever scorer in the Six Nations, and just got player of the tournament in the Six Nations. But Brex got player of the game, player of the match 4 games in a row.
And 2 of them were in the Six Nations.
So 2 games in the Six Nations. Then he went back to Benetton and then got player of the match in his next 2 games. So, yes.
Well, they both play.
But then also they've got a great centre called Drago. They've got a couple of good players.
think you might see, I think I don't know whether they're going to play Brex and Menoncello. They might put Drago and Facatero on.
But also Brex and Menoncello, no, I can't say it, famous last words, are basically indestructible type players. I feel like they could just keep going and going, and they're such workhorses.
Yeah, but
Brex is massively overworked.
I think
everyone.
Brex could deserve it. I think Brex might have a week off. Menoncello's a bit young, so maybe they're like, give him another run around.
The possibility of facing Malachi Fekitoa instead of those two.
I know,
really
right?
Feeling we were very great. That feels great.
Yeah. he's our B player.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Just shows the difference between the two teams. So, Gav, look, Benetton have played 19 games, no competitions, and they've lost just 5 of them, right? It's pretty impressive. Now, we're coming into this game off the back of a win against Zebra, but this is a much bigger challenge, it's fair to say, is there? Especially given our dreadful away form. Let's try and be positive, Gav. Can we get anything out of this game?
Yeah, a losing bonus point.
That's fine. That's as positive as we can get. Yeah. That's something. Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and say, we'll beat Benetton away, because that would be foolish. I don't think we will beat them, but I think we could probably hold them within a sensible scoreline.
So what I love about the bonus point situations, the losing bonus point and the 4-try bonus point adds such an element of flair.
Yeah.
So, the amount of times this season watching Zebre play, and, the game is gone. But
you're cheering them on for that 4th try.
Yeah, they've scored 2 tries and they've got half an hour left, and suddenly they're like, okay, well, can they
come away with a point?
And it encourages exciting rugby.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with Zebra, and I've spoken about this on the Rat Pod as well. They're not winning games, but what they're doing, they're picking up losing bonus points and try bonus points. And they accumulate. They all add up. But that's why we are sort of neck and neck with them. And you got to give them credit. And like you said earlier, they've played some really nice rugby. Haven't they? They are improved. They still leak a lot of points, but they are getting better.
Yes, it's a work in progress. But we had George Biaggi, the head of rugby operations, on our pod. And he was saying, the aim was take points from every game. One way or another, get points from every game, which is why they were. But then, I really well played to Dragons to beat them. I was so disappointed with the Zebre Palmer in that game, because, as you know, though that game, the Dragons Zebre Palmer game, is such a big battle for those two sides. And Dragons,
it's the basement battle, big time. Yeah. It's horrible.
And Dragons turned up to win it.
Yeah.
And Zebre Palmer didn't. And it was a bit, why save your best performances for games you're never going to win?
I've been saying that this season, and the Zebra game was definitely one we needed to target. I'm not even sure that we came to win it. I think we had a couple of chances that we took, and then when we needed to, we just held Zebra out.
Yeah.
It wasn't a particularly pleasant experience to watch, but it was.
Dragons, see, but they're always horrible. It's a shit fest. They really is. It's 2 struggling teams.
Yeah,
it's not nice, because we did lose to Zebra in the Challenge Cup.
Yeah,
and it's that loss that really put us out of Europe, because there was a freak result between Cheetahs and somebody, which meant we had to beat the Sharks. And I said to you, Captain, as soon as we had to beat the Sharks, that was never going to happen. So we boasted up big time against Zebra in the Challenge Cup. And we were winning half time. We were first half, we were really good. And they paid £7 to watch it as well, which really annoyed me.
I know, right? The EPCR TV.
But a game. It sounds good. Anyway, outrageous. But anyway, we will see how it goes, because I think Dragons and Zebre both have Scarlets in their remaining fixtures. Mm-hmm. So if they both win that, it could be that both sides end up sitting on top of Scarlets.
That'd be good.
That'd be quite good. Yeah. I think that'd be really tasty.
Yeah.
It would. It absolutely would. Yeah. Okay, so before we let you guys go, let's do predictions. So my prediction on the Rat podcast on Monday, I said Benetton by 9 points. So I think this game's going to go one or two ways. I think it'll either be closer than we expect, but with Benetton coming out on top, I think Dragons will go there and give it a good crack, especially if we go out Welsh Internationals. We have Rio Dyer, Aaron Wainwright, Tane Basherman. We should be able to put out a competitive team.
Yeah.
I think we can give Benetton a good game. Or I think Benetton will batter us. That's happened a few times in Treviso over the years. We've had a couple of 50-pointers put on us. But I
completely agree. I think it's one or the other.
By 9.
It's on Saturday, is it?
Eddie? Yes. It's on Saturday, 2 p.m. What's your prediction, Eddie? What are you saying?
Well, because I'm a professional, I'm just checking the weather. And you'll be pleased to know that there's lightning, rain,
Ooh.
thunderstorms
You'll also
on Saturday.
Very pleased to know that last
What do you
weekend it was 33 degrees and this weekend it's 17. So I feel like
That's
for
good.
your Welsh players, that'll
So,
be a lot.
Not
more
good for your
pleasant.
traveling fans who are going to Treviso. It's a beautiful city in the rain.
Yeah.
But I think if it's rainy
It'll be
and
closer than
it's
we
close, it's slippery underfoot, I reckon that plays into the Dragons' favour a little bit. One would assume it rains in Newport more than Treviso.
Benetton by 9 is a really
Yes.
good shout.
Our pitch is lovely now, though. It's like a carpet all season round, so we aren't really used to playing on slippery grounds.
But it's the ball getting wet. You know, you see the hookers using towel.
That could benefit us, yeah.
I massively disagree with hookers using towels. Just get on with it.
I'm going to say it's going to be something like 22-12.
So by 10. I was going to say Benetton by 11. So yeah, still around that kind of ballpark.
You know what? Even though I'm on your podcast, I love you guys. You guys are great. I was about to say I'd really like to see Dragons get a bonus point, but then I think of Zebre, who also has to talk about on our podcast.
I know, I can imagine.
And I can't give you guys the bonus point, even in my heart, because it's so sad, you know.
Yeah, but I do think it'll be a high-scoring game.
So I'll buy you a Wetherspoons pint next time I see you, but I'll keep the
point.
Keep the point.
You can get us you get a €2 prosecco if
yeah.
we ever get to Treviso.
Honestly, next Dragons game in Treviso, you guys must come, and we'll come. We'll make the journey to Newport because if you haven't been, it is the most beautiful place.
I definitely want to go, and I want to go for Six Nations game as well. I want to go to Rome.
Yes, I mean that's
I think that'd be good.
Joyous.
That's standard, I know, but it'd be good to go to.
That's brilliant. Don't be a stranger when you go. Get in touch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right, Gav, you haven't given your prediction yet. So, what's the score going to be? Bear in mind now, we should have our Welsh internationals and the weather, and if we give it a good crack and not do anything stupid and play Dragonsy, we should be able to get something out of it, shouldn't we?
21-15 to Benetton.
Oh,
okay,
nice.
Yeah, I take that.
I could get a losing bonus point.
I could see that. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, so thank you for joining us. If our listeners want to find out more about your pod, want to subscribe, etc., where can they find you on socials, and where are you at?
So Instagram is probably the place where, and Twitter actually.
Instagram and Twitter. Search Spritz and Scrums.
Spritz and Scrums. Yeah, you'll find us there, and our podcast is on all of the podcast players. Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts.
Called Spritz and Scrums because we drink a lot of Aperol Spritz, or any kind of Spritz, could be Campari, or Select. They've got a special aperitif in Venice and Treviso called Select. Worth going just to try it. Anyway, so we drink a lot of Spritz and we watch a lot of Scrums. So Spritz and Scrums.
That makes sense.
Excellent.
Aperol is hugely overrated, though. I'm standing by that.
Campari or Select.
Yeah, my grandmother drank Campari.
I
developed it.
Funny, in the UK, it seems to be like quite a sort of like older lady drink that I didn't realise.
We could sell it in our cafe. So my surname's Evans, Ellie's is Russo, but obviously we're married. But we actually have a joke, which is, we couldn't double barrel because Evans Russo sounds like it's a cafe in Newport.
Yeah, Van's Cafe.
We do the finest gelato in all of Newport.
All cafes in South Wales are run by Italians. So
there you go. So if we decide that actually we want to retire to,
I hope my terrible Welsh accent hasn't offended you.
It's fine.
You know what? It is literally the land of my father's Wales because my dad's dad's dad was the fully Welsh one. So it's literally the land of my father's.
And he's never been.
Shocking. Not even been to Newport. Not good enough. Guys, thank you very much for
Thank you
joining us.
so much. Thank you so much for having us.
Grazie mille. Thank you so much.
Best of luck for the pod. And
I'm
going to say best of luck to Benetton. Not on Saturday. I'm sorry, not sorry. Wow. We need the points. So if you could have an off day or stinker, let us win. That'd be great. But definitely best of luck for the rest of the season, especially against Gloucester. I think that's good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're
going.
We'll be there. Yeah.
We'll be there. Yeah. So it should be a good one. But thank you so much for having us. And we will have you guys over on ours at some point, I'm sure, when the next big game is on, probably next season. But it's been a joy.
Dragons versus Benetton in the Champions Cup final in 2 years' time.
Oh, that's the dream, isn't it?
Oh, God. I'm getting all misty-eyed.
All the
Okay,
best,
thank you, guys.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Ta-ra. Ciao. There we go. What a lovely couple, Gav.
They were indeed.
Yeah, really nice. Okay, let's go on to the news because there's been a fair bit of news since our last pod. Starting off then, a bit of surprising news. Jack Dixon, he's retired from rugby at the age of 29. So Dixon hadn't played for the Dragons since he suffered a head injury against Leinster in November. But his surprise decision to quit the sport after 13 years is not injury related. Dixon went on to say that rugby and the Dragons has been a huge part of my life since I was 16 years old. But I feel it's the right time to step away, move on, and start the next chapter of my life. It's a bit of a shame, this, Gav, isn't it?
Yeah, good player, Jack Dixon. A lot of time for him as a player. But, yeah, I think it takes a lot of courage to say, probably time to give up. I should have said it 20 years ago, but it is a shame. But it's I assumed it was injury related till I saw the reports that it wasn't. Well, I hope whatever he does, he enjoys.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of people thought it was injury related, but it's not. This is just Jack saying, I've had enough, and he has been playing since he was 16 years old. That's what we forget as well. He feels like he's been around forever. He's put his body on the line for the Dragons. And he is going to be a loss for us, because Jack Dixon used to be that Jamie Roberts play for us.
Yeah,
bosh it up the middle, and you need that. You absolutely need that. But Newbridge-born Dixon became the youngest player to play Welsh Regional Rugby when he came off the bench in an LV Cup tie at Wasps in October 2011, Gav. He was aged just 16 years and 313 days, right?
Wow.
And he broke the record set by his teammate, Hallam Amos, just 33 minutes earlier when he started the same game. Oh, that's so Welsh rugby, isn't it?
Yes. 16-year-old playing adult rugby, jeez.
I know, it's crazy, yeah. But we do wish Jack all the very best with his future endeavours. Yeah. He was a very good player for the Dragons, really good, solid club pro, and we wish him and his young family all the very best.
And he owes the game nothing, so he can walk away and get on with it.
Absolutely, he's had a good career. So in other news then, this was also a surprise, but now I've had time to think about it, I think it's pretty understandable. So Gonzalo Bertranu's Dragons career is over after the Argentina scrum half moved on loan to Cardiff for the rest of the season. I believe he's on the bench for Cardiff against Ulster this weekend. So Bertranu has been plagued by injuries since returning from the World Cup. He only made 2 appearances for the Dragons this season. He was going to be leaving anyway. He's not part of the future plans. We got Rodney at scrum half, we got Dave Blacker, plus we got 2 young scrum halves, Shea Hope and Morgan Lloyd. Overall, Gav, a very good overseas player for us because we've signed a lot of duds from overseas. But Bertranu, yes, he could blow hot and cold. I think he was a successful overseas signing, don't you think?
I think it's just this year. Yes, this year painted slightly differently, doesn't it? Because he wasn't around for the World Cup, then he had injuries. But I think he's had a good time at the club, and you're absolutely right. One of the overseas players we've signed who think, they've done a good job for us.
Yeah, definitely one of the best overseas players we've had at the club. And like I said, I don't think he's going to stay at Cardiff because Cardiff are looking at a South African scrum half, apparently. But best of luck to, whatever
I imagine he'll end up in France, won't he? He'll end up in France.
Yeah.
So there's talk about the Jaguares returning to Super Rugby.
Oh, right. But even if he does stay at Cardiff, all the best to him. I got a lot of time for Gonzo. He was a very good player for us. So, that's that. Good news. Some contract news. So, after much speculation about his future, Wales back rower Tane Basham has signed a new deal. So, as we know, Gav Tane was linked to moves to Scarlets and Saracens, but he's rejected those, and he's going to stay at the Dragons. Also, Angus O'Brien, who we've missed terribly, I think, this season, and Will Reid have signed new deals to stay with us. Now, given the circumstances in Welsh rugby and where the Dragons are right now, I have to be honest, I think the club, the Dragons, have done incredibly well to keep hold of Anne Wainwright, Rio Dyer, and Tane Basham. Because I don't know about you, Gav, I was convinced one of them, if not two of them, was going to leave us. We've done well, haven't we, to keep them?
I thought of the 4 internationals, throwing Leon Brown into that as well. I thought we were going to lose either 3 or 2 of those.
Yeah.
So the fact that it looks like we'll probably lose 1, it really kind of I'll take that as a win.
Yeah, I mean, there's no news on other re-signings yet, but I'd say it's highly unlikely that Leon's going to stay with us.
I think Leon will go. I think Bradley Roberts will go.
Yeah. There's talk of CEO going as well. There's talk of Sean Lonsdale. We'll talk about that a bit later about new signings. But also, the Dragons announced a couple of weeks ago, they announced a batch of next generation signings. So these were new contracts for young players at the club, our academy players. So Harry Ackerman, Joe Westwood, Shea Hope, Morgan Lloyd, Ollie Andrew, Ewan Rosser, brother of Jared, of course, and Wales under-20s captain Ryan Woodman have all signed deals. There's a good crop of young talent there, Gav, that we've managed to keep. And it's good, isn't it? Because we've seen and read all these stories about young Welsh talent going over the border, and we're losing them. And the Dragons have managed to keep hold of their young players.
And a few of those, I think, will be going to become internationals. I think Ryan Woodman will be playing international rugby sooner.
Harry Ackerman, Ryan Woodman,
Shea Hope.
He's having a really good season for Newport, Shea Hope.
Superb, absolutely superb.
Morgan Lloyd for Pontypool as well. He's going well. Yeah, there's a lot of talent there, so the future's looking bright. So in other news then, Di Flanagan today said that he wants to make up to 7 signings for next season. So he said, ideally, we're looking at 7 new faces. Between 4 and 7 would be great. To recruit players takes work, energy, and belief in what we are trying to do as well. If I walk into a room with a player and try and sell them a product I don't believe in, they'll see straight through it. Me and the owners are aligned. We have a 3-stage plan and have been very clear with every person that we have met on where we are. So, Gav, I'll ask you this. Where are the areas that we need to improve, do you think? What do we need? Locks, front rowers?
Front
fullback?
rowers.
What we're looking at? Yeah.
Front rowers, fullback, 10. I'd like, if CEO's going, I'd like a lumpy centre. Harry Ackerman's great, but he's not able to play all the games yet. And a second row. Yeah, so lots of positions really. Props. I don't think we need to worry about hooker. I think the options at hooker are even if Bradley Roberts goes, I think we're all right at hooker. Props, we do need a bit of strength there. Second row, we again, Sean Lonsdale's gone particularly. We probably need someone there. Back row, we're fine. I think 9, we're fine. 10, I would like to see a bit more competition.
We need an experienced 10, don't we?
Yeah,
and then, Will Reid, he has done well. He's had a lot of burden put on his shoulders because of the injury to Angus, so we haven't got that depth. But I still feel at times, and it's due to his age, not the quality of player. He's going to be a very good player, but that inexperience shows sometimes in his decision-making and how to control the game. So I agree with you. I would like to see an experienced 10. Of course, we had one with JJ Hanrahan, but we had to let him go because he was costing an absolute fortune. But who's out there at the moment, I guess?
Yeah. I'd like a lumpy 12. And then, 15 cover just for Kai, really.
It's a shame we can't keep C.O. Tompkinson, though, isn't it? Because if Jack Dixon is gone now, that frees up a bit of room. Gonzalo Bertrand was gone. He's off our wage bill now. If I was the club, I'd be looking to keep C.O. I know he's had some injury issues this year, but he's a player. And I'm glad, by the way, he is back this weekend against Benetton. But he's that kind of guy who can get you over the game line. Because if you look at our centre partnership, yes, and Iwan Owen's very talented young player. Steph Hughes is reliable, but they lack power, don't they? They don't get you over that game line. They're more playmakers than big boshers, as I like to call him. That guy that can bosh over the game line.
The second playmakers are 12 rather than, those kind of crash ball 12s.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'd be very interesting to see what new faces we bring in. Will we get anyone from the regions? Will we go to the Currie Cup? Maybe, that's what Cardiff did with De Beer. You got the Ospreys, they've linked up with Cheetahs. So, it'd be very interesting to see the caliber player and where they come from. So that's something to look forward to. Okay, so that's the news rounded up then, Gav. It's time for your Gwent Rugby roundup. What's been happening?
So I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to focus on the higher leagues a little bit today. So the biggest result to come out of the weekend was Newport's rather impressive 89-26 home win against Bridgend.
Good grief.
Which has cemented them at the top of the league. A fantastic performance, record-breaking scores all over the place. The highest home score Newport have had for a number of decades. Just a fantastic performance.
Didn't see that coming, that scoreline. I was shocked when I saw it, because Bridgend are a pretty decent team as well, aren't they? You know,
yeah, absolutely.
See that many points.
They're doing relatively well. So, yeah, fantastic performance there. Then in the championship, Bedwas lost at home to Bargoed 36-8. Cross Keys beat Estrada 36-26, also at home. Newbridge, good win for them. They won 48-8 against Treorchy. And then Penalta lost away 36-50 away to St. Peter's. In Division 1, previously unbeaten Bryn Mawr lost at home by a single point to Anestee. So that puts Anestee in third promotion possibility. Bryn Mawr will be going up to the championship, it would appear, already, despite that. But Monmouth beat St. Gennes 36-27. Bedlinog won 33-30 away to Nelson. Abergavenny, who have not had a good season, beat Pontypool United 43-27 in Pontypool. And Talawine beat Dowlas 29-5. So just focusing on those leagues. So Gwent side's doing well with in the Championship and in Division 1 and in the Premiership.
Good stuff. And just to let you know, as we're recording this, Ebbw played Pontypool this evening at Gwent Derby, and you'll be pleased to learn, Gav, that your beloved Ebbw won. They beat Pontypool 16-10. That result has just come in now. So that's a very good result.
An excellent win. That'll keep us in third.
Yeah. All good stuff there.
Always a hard-fought game, that. Oh, God.
Yeah, but that's a very good win for Ebbw. Right, it's been an action-packed show, isn't it? Fair play. So thanks again to our guests from Spritz and Scrums. Really enjoyable chat, lovely couple. Gav, thank you as always for joining me. We'll be back next week. So until then, it's goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Dragon's Lair podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question is, rugby is always the answer.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.